organized group, the state. So it has met the threshold, if you ask me. The threshold for international crimes has been met. These are crimes against humanity. And I'll not be surprised when in the not so far future, you're going to see indictments being issued. But I will not even be concerned more about ICC. That's even a more laborious process. It takes more time, timorous. What we are now exploring as options, we have the concept of universal jurisdiction, where there are countries across the globe that have recognized that there are certain crimes when committed against civilians. They are so serious that they concern us, even if the crime is not committed in our country, that does not even affect our national, but it affects a human being. So under the concept of universal jurisdiction, we'll just go shop around here across the globe. There are some countries in Africa, most of them are in Europe, where you'll just go and file your docket and seal docket, and the magistrate will issue a warrant of arrest. Even before.
From another country?
Yes. How do you...
Another court?
There was a time when Rwanda president had a warrant of arrest, I think, in France and in Belgium.
Yes.
Did it involve nationals of those countries?
But what are the chances of honoring those?
No. The main thing is to start. You raise the tempo. Of course, for the situation in Rwanda, it was a bit more delicate than Kenya, so they had to deal with it diplomatically at some point. But it happened.
So in the Kenyan context...
In the Kenyan context, what stops me from applying for warrants against Bungei or any other police officer here?
But not against the president?
I can, even against the president. In those countries, they'll seal it and unseal it. You go and seal in another country and they'll issue it. So, there are many avenues that these things can be pursued.
But for now, we are 2 years to the general election.
Who said
we must wait? I'm quoting the president.
Okay.
I'm quoting the president. What he said is, tukutane kwa debe in 2027. If your policies you feel they're better than mine, let's meet at the ballot. So with those options that you had earlier given, there is no chance that he's resigning. There is no chance that he's going to... that is going to be well or impeached. That those are not possibilities. So the only option at the moment that is viable, according to him, is wait until 2027. But
that is correct.
Looking at if you watched his statement, as a lawyer, you try to cross-examine his statement, his demeanor, his body language. What do you make of it? What's your reading about everything in context?
In fact, for me, every time I see William Ruto angry, then I know he has lost it. He has no more plan. That's the same William Ruto was frothing in the mouth, telling Raila, hamtanitisha. Enough. Hakuna. It will not happen again. In 2023. It didn't take 2 weeks. And they were doing their NADCO. The same one stood here, kifua mbele, ati, pitisha raka. Those terrorists will see. Called out the army. Next day, sons and daughters, I reject the finance bill. That's the one that you say can do anything. William Ruto is not a monarch. He's a president of a republic, not a king in a monarchy. To think that he can threaten the use of force. So if you want to kill, I always say this. When a regime kills the first person, once the first person dies, going forward is about defining your exit. Your duty as a president is to make sure that you don't end up killing people or permit the killing of your people by the state, by the police. Because the moment the first one is killed, rest assured there will be a reaction from the people. And your state apparatus will react by killing more. So if they kill 1 today, tomorrow they'll kill 3. The next day they'll kill 4. So it's now a path that you're defining that to you is about death. But the more people you kill, the more boldened, the more the demand for your exit will increase. The more people will keep challenging you. You're just making the situation more dire. So in your best of interest, when you find yourself in such a situation, what you should be talking about is how to retreat, retrace your footsteps, and find a genuine engagement with your people to address their issues. You cannot be standing there to issue more threats and promises of more deaths. It doesn't help your cause. It simply means now the demand for your neck to be arraigned in court once you leave office will grow louder. It's not helping him.
I'm hearing you say, and is there a concerted effort across board, or is it just people doing what they say? Because I'm looking at all of this in a circuit, that if we looked at the protests, the way in which they have come over the past few years, because all of this anger that you speak of, these directives that are being given, we didn't see this kind of behavior outside of the protest. And it started with the Mandamano of, the Sufuriya Revolution as we now know it, early in 2023, and then moved to 2024 where we saw the finance bill protest, and has become, it has started to become a kind of usual thing. And that we see this display after these events take place. Is there a concerted effort? And if so, it would be a bit scary. That is there an effort from what you see to silence the voice of the people with this force or with the promise of this force? And is it a retaliatory, reactionary measure, or is it just modus operandi?
I mean, that is what legacy politicians know. To them, in their toolbook, when people are demanding for accountability, when people are speaking against bad governance, because that puts them on the spot, the response is beat them up
to submission. They should not raise their voices. Scare them. Clamp down on them. That's from the typical toolbook of failed legacy politicians.
So there's nothing surprising. I'm not surprised. You'll expect that in 2025, they should have revised their syllabus and come up with better ways of responding to demands for accountability. It cannot be the same batons. It has never worked, and it will not work. The more you brutalize people, the more they'll demand and agitate for accountability and good governance.
Wakili, as we talk about finding a solution to these, and if there is any plan, there is the call for conclave that has been called by one Raila Odinga, and the protesters themselves, Kenyans, are saying we do not need to sit down and talk. All we want is justice and implement and pretty much just deal with our concerns. Do we need a conclave? Do we need to sit at a table to have a discussion on respect of human rights and ending police brutality?
No, you don't need a conversation to arraign police officers and their commanders responsible for these killings to court. What you need is political goodwill. I don't think you need a conclave or a conversation or dialogue, for that matter, for the government to rule or to lead by the Constitution. Just abide by the Constitution. That's all the Kenyans are asking. But it's also well within Raila Odinga's right to ask for a conversation. Where we sit as Safina Party, we don't believe in any conversation with William Ruto.
Why?
The only conversation we should be having with William Ruto is this. He announces publicly that I'm resigning from office. Then we have a conversation to discuss the steps towards the transition. What needs to be done before that resignation takes effect? Because what are you discussing with him when his hands are dripping with blood from these over 300 young people who have died from 2023 under his regime? And he bears the greatest responsibility for these deaths. So what conversation are you having with such a person? When your response to a people's demand for accountability and good governance is direct the police to shoot them to maim. So we cannot have a conversation with William Ruto unless it's about his exit. And look at the Constitution, which are the parameters within which a conversation can be had to actualize that exit. So yes, the option that we are choosing is resignation, for example. And we should be able to have IEBC and do a rapid voter registration exercise for the new voters who have not been brought into the register within a month or so to clean the register and clean the register. And we have elections.
Everyone deserves a smartphone, so level up with Airtel Quantes Simu.
Understanding that they signed. One of the issues that were put there as key was the end of abductions and extrajudicial killings. Just on Sabasaba alone, according to Kenya National Commission of Human Rights, 31 Kenyans were killed.
Today, 32 actually.
They're now 32.
One died, yeah.
And you had over 576 Kenyans arrested.
And over 100 injured.
And you still have many people being abducted. That is a basic term of their MOU. If that basic term that says stop extrajudicial killings, you've ignored it by killing now a minimum 31. In fact, if you add to the numbers from 25th and the numbers from 17th, it's now almost 57.
This was the number one item on the agenda.
This was the number one
actually.
item.
Yeah.
To what to stop.
Yeah.
Now, if they cannot honor that basic one, what else are you discussing with such a person? If not his exit. Because it's demonstrated to you his incapacity, his incapability to honor his word. The only thing that has been honored in that BBG MOU is positions for Wakubwa. Some ministers from this side, board appointments. So we don't want to turn this to be an elite conversation where they reduce the people's clamor for accountability and good governance to be an opportunity for the elite to get positions for themselves. It doesn't help. It has not helped. NADCO report. These issues were in NADCO report. The same issues were found their way in the BBG MOU. Not implemented in NADCO, not implemented in BBG. And then you still expect that you can have a conclave with the same characters and find a solution. You cannot. When BBG came into being, the primary aim of BBG was to deal with the issues that the youth were raising that led to the storming of Parliament. If 1 year down the line, the youths are now more on the streets than even they were last year, it tells you that the situation has not improved. It has gotten worse. The solution cannot be to have another conversation. The solution should be that this thing that we thought we were doing, we have failed the people of Kenya. Let's find another way. And that one other way is, let William Ruto resign, as allowed in the Constitution, and invite the country. Can you people have a conversation to chart the way forward? How do we get back to elections effective from the effective date of my resignation? I am Pharaoh. I have let my people to go. Let them go to Canaan. But it cannot be that you're still going to talk to Pharaoh to discuss the terms of living. And you want to discuss how you're living with Pharaoh in Egypt. Pharaoh is going to get whips of scorpions to whip you, and now he'll tell them to double the torture. It's not going to get any better. And Pharaoh is not helping himself. When Pharaoh stands up to speak, he threatens death, maiming. And you expect people to go to have that conversation with Pharaoh when he has promised you more killings and more injuries. You cannot have a genuine conversation in such a situation.
Let's go back to the protest for a moment. And I'm just drawing this from President Ruto's statement. Well, he's rejected, and this is not the first time he's done this, he's rejected the narrative of protest, insisting that they've been hijacked, and there are political actors who are fanning off the flames of discontent to disrupt national stability. And that's what led him to ask the question, why cause the chaos now during my time? Why not during President Kibaki's time or President Uhuru's time? Is this conversation veering off, or is this conversation of infiltration distracting the core issues of why people are agitating for accountability, good governance, good governance, leadership, justice? Is this a distraction? Because from both sides, so from the president's side, there are people who actually infiltrated this protest, and they're criminals or terrorists. Now, from the other side, the accusation is, no, it's the state that is sponsoring these goons to destroy property during protest. It is not us. So, on the baseline, it is these two groups now accusing each other But down here, the people who are constantly suffering every time we have this is the conversation being hijacked by the political class of the key issues that Kenyans are going through.
You know, the first thing that you must note, you know, these legacy politicians, they're talking to themselves. Kenyans are not in that conversation. No one cares about them, by the way. They are the problem. Yeah.
From both sides.
From both sides. We are here because of 60 years of legacy politics. That's why we are where we are. And I can tell you, no one can claim to be the leader of these demonstrations, or even to be the one that represents the voice of the people. Nobody. Every Kenyan is speaking as a sovereign and demanding for a better country on their own. Let them even try to have their national or their conclave or their conversation, whichever way. Let them have it. And you'll see the Kenyan people reject them unanimously and continue with the demonstrations.
Yeah.
It's not like the state has not tried. They've tried even to marshal some of the young people and try to prop them to become leaders of the youth to speak on their behalf and to have a conversation with them. What happened? They're all cancelled.
Sure.
Because what we are demanding for, it is affecting everybody in their home. When you talk about a failed economy, everybody in the evening has a conversation with the economy at the dinner table if there's one. Many don't even have that dinner table to begin with. But they are confronted with the economic challenge.
Whereas the politics or the side that any individual would want to be on in this discourse will take center stage, we must ask the question, just like you say, the reasons or the agenda behind protests in the first place that has not been addressed. Kenya is not unique in this sense that protests take place in this country. They take place around the world. The question is, and I think that perhaps we don't address, is what do you do as government when you're met by these issues that then dress themselves up in protests? What do you do? Many would say that what you don't do is shoot people in cold blood. What you don't do is take life or meet it with violence. What do you do that is constitutional, that is legal? What do you do? Do you address people?
Do you know
How?
the beauty about the protests happening in Kenya today is that the issues that are leading to the protests are known. It's the economy. That's that tied to all of this is the economy. Forgive me before you get into governance issues. It's more the economy. And the army that you see out there of young people should even worry any administration that cares. That you have all these young people, young, energetic, in their prime, unemployed, that when called upon to fight for their rights, they can self-mobilize and come to speak on the economy. So your response should be, how do I deal with this economic problem? And so far the solution William Ruto's constitution has proposed is not working. They thought by shipping Kenyans to become slaves in the Middle East is a solution to the young people's problem here. You cannot ship all Kenyans to become slaves in the Middle East. Not sustainable. Deal with the problem. And one thing that we keep saying in the Safina Party, the elephant in the room on the economy is called debt. It is said the chicken of Jubilee have come home to roost.
Yeah.
That binge borrowing and binge spending of illegal debt, the odious debt, has caught up with them. And they must answer. They must pay. But they don't want to have that conversation. They don't want to open the debt register. If 70% of your collection goes to debt finance, and you keep going to the people to raid their pockets to pay for these illegal debts, the people are going to get more angry. So if you want a genuine solution, you will start by telling Kenyans, okay, this is the state of the nation today. Let's try to discuss a solution as a group.
And I hear you. Essentially, would it make sense if he said, or if the position was that I hear you? And I'm asking that question, and even as I do, one of the countries that we talked about yesterday that has protests, I mean, does the sun come up? Yes, there's a protest. That's France. There's protests against Israel Gaza happening in Paris. There is a protest against, there's a travel disruption due to protest. There is a TikTok ban in New Caledonia, protest happening. This is still France. There is a pensions reform protest happening in Paris. 1.2 million people marching into the city. There is a protest against King Charles' historic state visit to France. There is a protest against the retirement of the president, Emmanuel Macron. There is I can go on and on. This is all happening
Today.
in France. There is actually a news schedule page of the protests that take place in the country. But what has the president done? He's had a conversation and said, okay, guys, on all of these things, especially the pension reform ones, we have heard what you are saying. We are working on it, and not just we're working on it because I've said to you, but here is what we're actually doing, and here is the case that we're trying to put forth. And then for some reason Paris doesn't blow up in flames and the police aren't killing anybody. Is that a method that can be followed?
Of course. But what is why can't they follow it? Not that they don't know it. You can imagine, to a legacy politician, to them, if they see 1 million people in the CBD that they're not controlling, that's a threat.
It's bad for optics.
To them, yeah. Number one, bad for optics. Now, who will marshal them back home in the evening? So, when people congregate, it's their nightmare. That's the point when they see a large crowd that they can't pinpoint that this is so-and-so's crowd, who is not a member of their group, not a legacy politician. That is their nightmare. They can't imagine it, that people can self-mobilize even 1 million or even 100,000 or even 10,000 without the input of a legacy politician in the CBD. So they can't. So to them it's a fight of survival. They are seeing a threat. They are not genuinely seeing that this is an issue being raised by the people. How do we respond to this issue being raised by the people? How do we engage with them? Because if it was about engagement, even first you start with what we call the goodwill. How you address people changes. You start talking to people in a respectful manner. I recognize the issues you've raised. We are faced with the following challenges. We invite suggestions. But you don't start by threats. Promises of death and maiming. And you expect you'll have a conversation post that. It can't.
Willis, do you believe with this idea that, and for the longest time, the people say every week there's something new that is said to direct our attention to that thing, but there's something that is going on under the carpets. And every week, and we keep having different conversations. So today, we're discussing the president's statement yesterday. And there was the reaction now from what you're referring to, the other side of the legacy politicians. Then tomorrow there will be something else. Now we're going to get into the weekend. Next week there will be a totally different story. Are we being pushed towards certain narratives while there's something else going on?
Let me tell you, Dennis, don't give these legacy politicians too much credit.
They're not that smart.
They're not that smart. Because if they were smart, we will not be here. If there was something great that they're doing, something that they're doing that is undercover, they will not be here. They will have been able to control and manipulate us, that we'll all be supporting them. Because at the end of the day, a legacy politician, his greatest tool of trade, what he hopes for most, is to be loved by the people. They are now hated. They will all be forgiven water. So there's nothing smart that they have organized, they have planned, a PSYOP operation. Hakuna. This incompetence in display. Don't give them too much credit that they have anything. What I can assure you, by the way, why you're actually shocked, because you're a rational person. You don't expect that someone will be goofing this much every day. There must be something that is sinister that is going on that we are not seeing. No. It is who they are. This is their DNA. I can assure you today, you will sue very soon. In the near future, there will be another one. They are going to do something again that will annoy so many Kenyans, and everybody will want to go back to the streets. That is guaranteed. When Kenyans were almost like giving up that, okay, fine, maybe. What sends DIG Lagat to go and complain against Albert? And they send police units to pick him from Homa Bay, bring him to Nairobi and torture him to death. Just before the anniversary of June 25th. What was that? No one saw it. Then after Albert is killed and Kenyans are doing their memorial, Murkomen there shoot to kill order. No one expected it. You had to tell me that he was planning, let me now say this one to allow me to do this thing. No, it's incompetence in display. When Ruto spoke yesterday to say that don't kill them, shoot in the leg, to him they thought now we are cleaning it, and it will look good.
It's non-lethal.
It's non-lethal.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's ridiculous. It is incompetence, and it's now demonstrating to you the capacities of these legacy politicians.
And there is
That capacity that rests in the people of Kenya, the rest of us here, Kenyans, it is lacking in legacy politicians. All they have, and they've had all these years, is courage and conviction to pursue the buffoonery. While those of us were methodical in how we engage with governance.
Willis Otieno is an advocate of the High Court. He's been our guest this hour, and just getting those insights. It's very clear that still there's some way to go and to continue with these. Thank you for being here this morning and sharing your insights with us, Willis. And it's hope that we can pick up on some of these things and actually push forward in this discourse. Asante Sana. Good morning at 9:01.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm La Ubaga. Burial preparations are underway for Kenya's Chief Qadi Sheikh Abdul Halim Hussein Athman, who passed away in Mombasa today morning. According to the family, Sheikh Athman, who had been unwell and had recently sought treatment in India, will be laid to rest this evening in accordance with Islamic tradition. The Janazah funeral prayer will be held after ASR prayers at Masjid Nuru in Bondeni, Mombasa. He will be buried at the Kikoani Cemetery, Saif Halwa section. Sheikh Athman was appointed Chief Qadi in 2023 and had served the judiciary and Muslim community with distinction. The number of Kenyans who died outside the country increased from 270 in 2023 to 305 in 2024. Kenya National Bureau of Statistics report released shows this represents a 13% increase, with 184, that is 60.3%, being male and 121 being female. The highest number of deaths were reported in the US, 71, followed by India 50 and Uganda 22. Other countries included the UK with 19 deaths, Tanzania 18, Saudi Arabia 15, South Africa 15, United Arab Emirates 14, Qatar 12 and Canada 8. A combined 61 deaths were reported from other countries. The report also showed the age group with the highest number of deaths was 50 to 54 years, accounting for 38 cases. The lowest was the 20 to 24 age group, with just 2 registered deaths. No deaths were reported in the 5, 9 and 10-19 age brackets. The Interreligious Council of Kenya has issued a solemn appeal to the government and citizens alike to de-escalate tensions and commit to restoring peace and justice amid ongoing unrest linked to the controversial Finance Bill 2024. IKE Chairman Reverend Willie Bard Lago and Executive Director Linus Ndhigai warned that the nation is teetering on the brink of collapse due to what they described as a fight by the dominant political elite to acquire, protect and consolidate political and economic power. The council expressed grave concern over the state's handling of recent protests, which they said has degenerated into chaos marked by destruction of property, abductions and forced disappearances and extrajudicial killings. Their remarks come in the wake of troubling revelations that dozens of people died during the Sabasaba protests on July 7th. A man who was shot and wounded in the chaos that left a police station burnt in Bunyunyu, Nyamira County, succumbed to his injuries. Police said 19-year-old Brian Arisa Aranda died at a local hospital where he had been rushed to after being hit in the stomach. The shooting angered locals who raided Itibo Police Patrol Base and set it on fire in the drama on Tuesday. One police officer was stoned and seriously wounded in the chaos, while 3 police houses were also vandalized and looted. And finally, a popular TikToker or TikTok user accused of inciting violence against police officers and their families has been arrested in Nairobi. The suspect, identified as Godfrey Mwasiaga Kakan Mayo, was picked up by detectives last evening after a viral video posted on his TikTok account allegedly called for attacks against law enforcement personnel. According to police, DCI, that is, Mayo was tracked down to Kimathi House, where he had been operating a private office under the name Leta Peleka Logistics. Authorities said the arrest is part of a wider crackdown on individuals accused of spreading hate and inciting unrest amid recent anti-government protests. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust.
For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Traffic.
Okay, so what does it look like now? Traffic wasn't too crazy coming off Mombasa Road, but that may have changed in just a little bit. As you come then towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, traffic is already building up a little bit more than it was before, but then I will ease out as you then go past on Uhuru Highway, so that's okay there. A little bit of traffic still on the Eastern Bypass as you head towards Embakasi, and then outbound traffic on Outer Ring also doing the thing right about now. It is also busy on the Thika Superhighway, but just at that Pangani underpass, and then also on Kimathi, or rather on Kiambu Road as you come towards the city. Busy on Limuru Road, but apart from that, I think we're getting through the morning without too much of a stitch. Spice FM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done done right.
Coming in at 9 minutes
94.4
after
Spice
9
FM,
o'clock.
Nairobi.
Good morning. If you're just tuning in, this is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. You're connected. And then it says, yes, you're connected. Huh?
Yes, let's power your internet speeds. We're talking about speeds of up to 50 Mbps. Get yourself a router. Now, the people are already asking how much is it costing. It's affordable. 2,999 shillings only. You get yourself a portable router. It's very, very simple. All you have to do is visit any Safaricom shop, masoko.com, Quickmart supermarket, and or you can actually dial star 400 hash to make that a switch, and it's 5G Safaricom we're talking about. So Safaricom feels good to be home.
Fantastic. And so children need to get vaccinated from what we're hearing, measles, rubella, typhoid.
Typhoid, yes, and every child deserves a healthy start in life, but threats like typhoid and measles, rubella still endanger our communities. So with these, the typhoid is a serious illness spread through contaminated food and water, causing high fever, stomach pain, and fatigue. These are just some of the symptoms that you can look out for. Meanwhile, measles is highly contagious and can lead to severe complications, especially in young children. Now, this as it may, all is not lost. These diseases are preventable. Now, the Ministry of Health is rolling out a national vaccination campaign that started on the 5th to the 14th of July 2025. Children aged 9 months to 14 years will receive the typhoid conjugate vaccine, while those aged 9 months to 5 years will also get the measles rubella vaccine. Now, remember, all vaccines are safe, effective, and absolutely free. No one should charge you for these vaccines. Now, health workers are ready to serve you at public health facilities. Talk about schools, markets, and places of worship across the country. Protecting our children is a collective responsibility and is a must, one child at a time. To ensure this is achieved, visit your nearest vaccination center. This message is brought to you by Ministry of Health, UNICEF, WHO, and development partners, including having such conversations right here on Spice FM.
And those conversations that we have do continue this morning, and we are getting into a conversation this hour. We're going to be looking at a number of things, as it includes your digital safety, and it forms the basis for our healthy, rather, I was going to say Healthy Friday, but that could be our Justice Thursday conversation this morning. Not to forget that our live streams, as we're happening, are on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. Audience on KTN with us this morning. Hannington Chumba is the director of the Kenya Forensics Examiners, and he joins us this morning again for a conversation, one very different from what we've had before. Hannington, good morning.
Good morning to you, Ndu.
How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Karibu sana, good to have you here.
Thanks you for the invite.
Thank you for coming.
I'm always humbled to get an invite from you.
Thank you so much for honoring that every time that you do. Rose Tunguru is a civic tech activist, and you know her because, I mean, the case of her creating a website that essentially put your 124s about the finance bill and all of that was then done, and then she was arrested and then charged before court. Those charges have still been have been dropped, and she's free, but the conversation continues. We're having a conversation today around digital safety. Your location is not a status update. She'll join us in a bit, running a few minutes late, but she'll be here all the same. We'll start with you, Hannington, and we'll welcome you with today's proverb, and you let us know what you think about that.
Yeah, our proverb comes from Kenya, and it is coming from the Luo community in the country. And as we talk about Kenya, great economy, but one that is still facing a lot of challenges. Now, we talk about matters to do with the tech, which is your space, and Kenya is considered to be one of the tech hubs in the continent. You know, you talk about the way Kenya changed how mobile money works across the world, and that's something for us to celebrate about. But let's go straight to our proverb today. A hyena cannot smell its own stench. A hyena cannot smell its own stench. How would you interpret that?
A hyena cannot smell its own stench. Very interesting. I would probably interpret it to mean like you cannot... Okay, stench for me is something bad. Stench is something that disgusts, something that you're not really comfortable with, or the people around you are not comfortable with. And so to me, hyena cannot do what?
Cannot smell
its own stench. Is like, I believe you need a friend. You need someone that someone who can probably tell you the situations about yourself, whether good or bad. Someone who cannot hide you from the truth of the matter, whether good or bad, something like that. It's more like the Kiswahili proverb that says nyani haoni kundule, something like that.
Okay. So, I mean, in a bit, Rose will be here, but, as we even begin this conversation, we're looking at digital safety. And, of course, now, everything that you do on this particular space with this internet, who do they say the internet belongs to? Okay. Everything that you do on this space is imprinted forever. There's a footprint. And it worries people sometimes because it can actually be to your detriment. But then how can you then ensure that you're safe digitally? Let's start off with that as we go into this particular space. What you do, you get on the phone, you're having a conversation with somebody, you're on the internet sending emails, you are, conducting business, whatever the case may be. How do we actually start, first of all, by identifying what digital safety is?
Thank you very much, Ndu. And sure. Today we live in a world that we are afraid of almost everything, and surely true to be afraid because we don't know who is watching. We don't know the kind of information that we have out there and who we are sharing that information with. So digital or online safety is something that we all need to be quite very much aware of, and we need to be very much cautious about. So today, you're not very sure what information someone has about you. For a long time, I've been saying the guilty are afraid, but I've come to realize that there are people who are guilty, but they're not afraid of anything, basically because the kind of information that they, or rather their digital or gadget share about them, may not really put them to a corner where they would feel a little bit guilty, but then they have all the reasons to be afraid. So 95%, I would say your phone is your enemy, but most of the time we tend to think that it's only the phone that has a lot of information that about you or gives out information about you without your consent. But if we take one step back, we would probably talk about many other things. Your Wi-Fi at home, the one that you put to monitor your house or your house help, how he handles your kid and all that. These are potential enemy. Your watch, for example, it may give, most of our watches these days, we go for a very digitalized watch. You want a watch that would be able to monitor your steps. You want a watch that would be able to probably tell you if you are at the verge of suffering a hypertension or something like that. That information, of course, it's synced to your phone, and then we before you notice it, you start getting all this information, or rather these adverts on your phone, telling you that you need to subscribe to 1 or 2, 3 things about hypertension. So your CCTV, your Wi-Fi, your bulb, right in your bathroom, the place that you feel so comfortable about, may all be your potential enemies. So yes, it's true that 73% of our information is disseminated out there using our phone, but other than the phone, we also have other gadgets that have the potential of sharing your information without your knowledge.
Yet we live at a time when we pretty much, for us to have normal life today, we depend on all these things, and one would hope that something we never really get to think about. You have your smartwatch. What's the big deal about it? But there is always the fine print, terms and conditions apply. Terms and conditions apply. So how then would an ordinary individual, an ordinary Kenyan out there, start looking at all these gadgets and tech as a source of it is my own security, but also exposes me? how do we look at it and start taking care of information that we share, or even gadgets that we buy?
Right, you are right very much, Aseto. And let me start by saying that, of course, who are we running away from? Why are we running away from the surveillance, particularly? I would probably say that we are moving back away from the intended objective. All this information that you see around us were particularly meant for a good cause. I am here today, and by the time I leave this place, I'll be getting a lot of information, or rather questions from Google, trying to ask me how is Standard Media Group. Does it have facilities that are comfortable for physically disabled persons? Are they able to access various departments or sections within the Standard Media Group with ease? You know, those were the intended, I would say, the intention of surveillance from the beginning. But we would probably say that as we speak today, there are a lot of information that we give out there without our knowledge. And as we move around, we end up knowing or not knowing, sharing a lot of information. So if I probably would ask today here, I know we have a mobile phone all around us, and I don't know how comfortable it would be for us today to say that we would be able to survive without our phone. How long would you probably, Dennis, or stay away from your phone, and what would be the impact of you staying away from your phone? So one thing that I probably get most of the time is when I ask this question, why do you think you're being surveyed? Or rather, why are you afraid of surveillance? These issues, or the answers that I get out of that question, would rotate about political issues, social issues, and economic issues. So when you look at each of those, you'd want to know exactly that the impact would be huge as compared to when you probably lived in the prehistoric time before the advent of technology.
I mean, Harlington, I'll cut straight to the chase. I have my phone here, and I'm afraid my enemies are tracking me, and I don't want to be tracked.
Sorry.
Okay? So I want you to tell me what do I need to do to stop my enemies from following me after I leave this studio to where I reside. I don't want anybody to know where I am. I don't want anybody following me or my activities.